Hey guys, I'm Paris Rose here with the author of The Wilderness, Dennis Delemar. Hello, Dennis. Thank you for joining us and give us insight. Yeah, I'm good. All right, so the book was really incredible, but I really wanted to know what inspired you to write it.
It's a long journey. First, I had to give credit to the Most High, just giving me the strength to write it. You know, I started writing when I was like 17 and, you know, started out with poetry, these corny rhymes and raps, you know. And then it just kind of evolved and, you know, so over the course of time, I never really had like anything that I had like all together. And so I just had, you know, because I got my stuff, you know, I'm like a mad scientist sometimes. I got like notebooks, just different places. And so what ended up happening is with these notebooks, I moved from, where was I moving? I think I was moving from Miami to like Oklahoma, right? And so I let one of my friends hold it, ex-friend now, and then he ended up losing it. And so what ended up happening is it just really hit me. And you know, the Most High really was kind of dealing with me like, you know, you don't have tomorrow to, you know, you have all these gifts and talents and you have these things that are given to you. Imagine if somebody, you know, gives you like all these gems and everything and you just like bury them. Or you put them in his chest and you just throw it in the trash or something, right? So it was just time to just get it out to the world and just, you know, so that's what happened, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, how did you settle on the title, The Wilderness? What does that mean specifically to you?
The wilderness. Well, I always think about this period because, you know, like the title connects back to the Israelites, right? So the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years and, you know, they were going to the promised land. They came out of slavery, you know, with Pharaoh, and then Yahuwah set them free. And then they had to journey through the wilderness. And this short journey took like, you know, 40 years. And then like really only like 2 people like got in from their older generation. And then everybody on a certain age. So when it comes to the title, I was kind of like, man, this feels like my life. Like, I feel like I was like wondering, like just going around in circles, like, man, just trying to figure it out and just like remembering those periods. So it's like, really it's like a compilation of everything I learned in the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? So I was just thinking like, and I hear people talk about like the wilderness. And I feel like that's a period of time that a lot of people go through in their life where they're like transitioning from, you know, going to one area of your life to another area. And some people never get there, but this is like, it was kind of like, well, maybe let me share my experiences. Maybe, you know, you can learn from what I went through. You know?
And you almost seem to credit your pain and your failures to the man you've become today. So do you feel like you need to experience pain to appreciate joy?
I think so. I remember one time I was in New Bern, North Carolina. That's where I'm from. Shout out New Bern, North Carolina. And I was at the park, and I remember, you know, because if you read the book, you'll see a little bit a journey with my dad, and just some of the, you know, abuse and mental abuse and physical abuse I kind of went through. And I remember walking back home, and the Most High was kind of dealing with me. He you know, and it put this thought in my head, like how would you know joy if you never really went through pain? Right. Like if you never been like broke, so to speak, like how would you know what real wealth is? You know what I mean? So like I feel like, you know, even when it comes to, you know, the faith of that I attest to as being an Israelite, and we talk about the Messiah, Yahushua, you know, that if you were never in bondage, how could you know you need to be saved? You know, if the Israelites were never like, man, they whipping hard, man, like, yo, we're trying to get up out of here, you know what I'm saying? It would never be a reason to call on the Most High to get deliverance, right? So you have to have that other side to be acquainted, you know, and I think it's a really cool thing because, and this is gonna be kind of like interesting to say, but it's like, I feel like sometimes it's really an honor to really suffer, you know, because from your suffering, you know, there may be somebody that get help from that. So to be in a privileged position to suffer for somebody else to get it I think is a cool thing, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting take on that.
Yeah.
You were really personal in this book and very vulnerable, which is surprising for men. Most men have trouble opening up.
Yeah.
So did you or do you fear exposing yourself and having everyone and anyone read your book?
I thought about that for a little bit. Like, I remember when I was like at the library and I was kind of like just going through like the last moments of like just getting it together. Like I was like literally like shaking, like I don't think I've never been as nervous as I've been trying to get this out. But you know, but it was a milestone, you know what I mean? For me, it was a milestone that, you know, that the Most High, Yahuwah, kind of put on my mind that, you know, you don't get past this level unless you get free from this. And you get free by sharing your story.
So you wrote open letters to your dad, to your mom, and they were very personal. Is there anyone that you would hope would read your story?
That I would hope would read my story. Yeah, a lot of people. I would say, you know, a lot of people I come in contact kind of have like similar stories, you know, maybe from father's homes or homes that the father was in, but he wasn't really there. Like he wasn't attentive, he wasn't present. And also, you know, like, and also women that had the same situation. So I would hope that they would read it because there are a lot of things that, you know, you gotta learn the hard way, right? And like let life teach you. And so if they read the book, they could get some of those nuggets that maybe I learned the hard way as a, you know, growing into it as a man, that they maybe can they can get, and they don't have to like go through that. You know what I mean?
But is there anyone in your personal life that you
in
wish?
a personal life?
Because you write a letter to your dad, it's hard. Could be hard for him to read.
Yeah, my dad actually got the book, and I'm working on the process of like getting some feedback.
Yeah, okay.
you know? But far as anyone particular, I would just say, yeah, I was really hopeful that he would read it, you know, and some of my family members have read it, and I've got some good feedback, and it's opened up to a lot of questions and different things that's been interesting, you know, because they didn't know some of the things that I went through.
Oh, okay.
So it's been an interesting process with that.
And did you get some answers? Because in the story you posed some questions that you had about your family and the upbringing that you didn't know. Did you get any answers?
I've been getting a little bit of answers. I know, you know, it was some things that I wrote from my mom, dear mom, and I've been getting some answers on some questions, and little pieces been coming together as bit by bit.
Okay.
So it's a continuous, you know.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, continuous journey. You know?
What are you most proud of in the book?
It's a tough thing because I'm like, what do I like the best? Because I really like the open letters, because the open letters are like really one of the first times I get to kind of put that on wax of different things. Like I got Dear Legacy and different things, but I would say probably poetry, you know, because that's where my writing started. You know, my writing started with me writing poetry because it was the only way to escape things I was kind of going through. So it's kind of always have a special place, and I feel like it's my truest expression. Because you know, you ever write something and you don't really know what you're writing, but you're expressing things you can't even express, right? And so like I feel like poetry is that with me, and that's kind of why like it's in the middle of the 7 chapters, you know.
Okay, so the book has 7 chapters. Was there a specific reason for the order?
Yeah, it was funny. I think about that story, like literally I was like, because I was praying on it for a while, and I like, you know how you have like these note cards and you like the stickies.
Yeah.
And you like, okay, well this, you know, if I move this here, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like for back and forth, and then it was like, and then the inspiration come. You know, sometimes when inspiration comes, it's like you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to do all these things, and then it's like, boom, it's like you got it, right? And so, 7 being the number of completion, right? And it's taking you through that process of like the bondage, right? And all the way to the promised land. And really that's kind of like how it's built up. It's like, chapter 1 is really like the bondage, like a lot of different things. And then it kind of like progressed through there and all the way up into like, open letters, life lessons. And then the what I really wanted to talk about, like, which I think is really cool, is like when you get to like chapter 6 and 7, like warfare in the promised land. And it's interesting because when you get to, like when the Israelites were getting closer to the promised land, they had to fight, giants, and I just think it's really interesting and cool that, the Most High, Yahuwah, he's like, hey, this is all yours. This is the promised land. Hey, but guess what? There's, giants to live in there, and these are like, and they're like, but it's part of that thing what we talked about is like possessing, your birthright, right? And so that's kind of like what I, when the inspiration hit me of the order of the chapters, it kind of came into that. And then when I got to the promised land, kind of like the area I'm in like now. Because what I found out, like through the process of writing this, it was almost like, it literally, like, I know it's a journey and I know that's like cliche, but literally it's like when I stopped the pen, it was like I stopped at that moment like I was in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the next book is like going right now, but it's like I stopped at the promised land and it's like, that was those chapters. So,
what are you hoping readers take away from this story?
I'm hoping readers take away from the story. I'm hoping that readers can maybe find some part where they connect with, the journey of the wilderness, even if they're in that same period. And also understand, one of the biggest things that I learned is, I love when there's a parable where, and I talk about it in like a really deep chapter where it's like life lessons, where I talk about like lust.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I like is that when Yahuchasad the Messiah, when he was going, there was this guy, he'd been there by the pool for like years, and he was like trying to get healed. And he wanted to basically get in the pool, you know what I'm saying, and get healed. And then the Messiah comes up to him and asks him, like, do you want to get healed? And it's like do you believe? I paraphrasing. But it's like, it's an obvious question, right? And it should have been an obvious like answer. Like, he's here, he wants to get healed. But it's like, then he told him to take up his bed and walk. And I think, like, to me, though, like, those are what this book is about. It's about possessing your birthright. Because a lot of people like feel like, it's outside of them. And it's like, take up your bed and walk. Like, get up. You know what I mean? Like, get up, like, understand, like, who you are. And that's kind of like the journey through this book is like not knowing who I was because I was told every day I'm not nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then coming into the reality of like learning different things and like, oh, I'm like he says I'm this. So it's like, and then you have to, it's like 2 parts. Then you have to like grab that. You have to like possess that. You say, okay, this is who I am, right? And so I would hope that they would say the same thing when they read it and they were like, you know what? I have some things that been given to me. You know what I'm saying? This is who I am. Let me grab it and let me be who I'm supposed to be.
Okay. And in the story, you also say, you describe how you found your purpose in life. What do you feel is your purpose in life?
My purpose in life. My purpose in life is first and foremost to love Yahuwah with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength. And love my neighbor as myself, right? And then it's like, you got like the mission statement, and then it like breaks down into like different tiers, right? So the next one I think is kind of what I just touched on, is like to help people to possess their birthright. Because you have that passion of going through that and getting free from that, now you want to help others. And so that's what my biggest thing is, just my purpose is that, to help people see that and get, you know, motivated to take action, to take up their bed and walk, you know.
So in all of this, what does success look like to you?
As far as the book,
your journey through life.
success.
Yeah.
Man, success, I think it's two parts. One is that the Most High be pleased with me, you know, and the second part is that to see actual transformation in other people, like to maybe somebody connect with, you know, any, you know, the book or any kind of content that I'm doing, and just be excited to make change, you know, because I'm like, I was talking about, I had a piece the other day, like I was doing a poetry, and I was kind of talking about, like, you know, you go through that stage of like, oh yeah, people like your work, oh it's cool, this and that, you know, and then that kind of gets, I mean, I'm not saying it gets played, but it kind of does get played a little bit. It's like, okay, yeah, cool, but you really want to see, like, man, like some stories, like, man, I was reading, man, and I was moved to do this, and you just kind of want to see the Most High work through that, and people really get help, you know,
Right.
by what you're doing, and really make that connection, and so that's success to me, and I began to see that, so I just think that's, I mean, that's like, you know, you get goosebumps when you hear things like that. So
Trying to like, pay it forward.
pay it forward, right?
Got it.
You know, and I think that's where you get fulfillment out of life.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, it's one thing to like know your purpose, but then it's another thing to like connect with your audience and actually see the results of like the fruit of your labor, like coming back to you. You know what I'm saying? Because for a while, I think through the wilderness, like I knew my purpose, like, okay, I'm gifted at this, you know, people like this, but it wasn't really making the connection of like the transformation of other people. And I think you do that by, you know, kind of what you said earlier, is being a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And how long was this process to write and finish The Wilderness?
It was actually, I tell people, it was pretty quick, because a lot of the writings I already had, but it was literally like, I remember in like, I think like September of last year, I was kind of like, you know, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I kind of put a date out there just to do it. And I think it was like, I think I started in like September, maybe October, and like released it in November.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like just writing every day, and just like it was just coming together quickly. So it mattered like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, that is really fast.
Yeah, so it's a fun process, but it's you know, it was tough.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, what was the hardest part?
The hardest part was reading and rereading.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's always a tough part, because it's like, you know, sometimes when you write, it's like you want to have that same impact that it had before.
Right.
Like sometimes I read stuff and I write it, and it's like it doesn't have that impact, and it's like, oh, well, something. Okay, I gotta pray again, because this ain't.
Yeah.
But when you know what something sticks, every time you read it, it's like, man, you know, you get something from it like you didn't even see, like, and then you're starting to learn from like your own work in a sense. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you're not even the writer at that point. You're like reading it.
Yeah.
And so that's when you know that like it's at that point when you're starting to read it and you're not even noticing that you wrote it. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like
so-
that. Okay, well, thank you, Dennis. That is all I have to ask. Thank you for being vulnerable again and giving us insight. So where can readers find your book, and when will it be out?
It's a link right there in the description. And also you can check it out on Amazon, right?
Nice.
The Wilderness by Dennis Delemar. And it's out. It's and let me know what you think.
All right,
All
thank
righty.
you.
Thank you. All right.